The UK has recorded 78,610 new coronavirus infections on Wednesday, its highest ever daily number, a day after the Prime Minister suffered the biggest rebellion of his premiership. Boris Johnson faced a tough Prime Minister's question time earlier in the day, after at least 99 Conservative rebels voted against his Plan B restrictions, citing concerns about personal freedoms. The bill eventually passed with support from opposition parties. The Prime Minister has continued to push for people to get vaccinated. Johnson said a second dose will be opened up to 12 to 15-year-olds due to the speed at which the virus is spreading.
The doubling rate of Omicron in some regions is now down to less than 2 days, and I'm afraid we're also seeing the inevitable increase in hospitalisations, up by 10% nationally week on week, and up by almost a third in London.
Let's now cross to Tig Enright, our reporter in London. So, Tig, the UK numbers are really quite staggering, but Boris Johnson still insists that it's about boosters and not more restrictions.
That's correct. No more restrictions have been announced, but Boris Johnson is requesting that people change their behaviour. And it's funny, Mariam, just a couple of weeks ago, Boris Johnson and some of his ministers were actively encouraging people to enjoy things like their Christmas parties, perhaps because they knew a separate political scandal was brewing about Christmas parties they'd enjoyed themselves this time last year. But now they're asking, although not telling people, to think twice before meeting up with friends and family this side of Christmas, telling people to prioritise those social gatherings with people who really matter, to think about vulnerable people who might be in their groups or staying at home, to take a test before going to such parties and ensure there's good ventilation at those venues. England's Chief Medical Officer Chris Whitty was also speaking at the same press conference. He warned that lots of people are going to get sick over the Christmas period, and that while Christmas is not cancelled, as it was here for many people effectively last year, it could very likely be disrupted, with some of your key guests perhaps forced into isolation because they have been infected.
Tig, you mentioned there that, the UK public are being urged to do their part to prioritise what kind of social gatherings they want to attend. But the UK is, of course, expecting to see hospital admissions rise in the coming weeks. So what's going to be done about that?
Yes, they do expect hospital admissions to rise. The forecast is that they will rise sharply after Christmas and that overall admissions could be as bad as they were this time last year. Even though early reports about Omicron suggest that the illness that it causes is not as severe, it's much more mild, but it does spread much more easily. So much more people overall are expected to get sick, and even if a lower proportion of those people end up in hospital because there's more people overall, you could have just as many people actually hospitalised. And there is a risk, we're told, of hospitals becoming overwhelmed, especially if staff need themselves to self-isolate. And that underlines the reason why people are being encouraged to be more cautious, but not being ordered to do so. Boris Johnson's nose already bloodied from that rebellion of his own MPs against the latest wave of restrictions in Parliament this week. So therefore, not trying at this stage to introduce any more regulations. Mariam?